Greetings and welcome back to One Dark Universe, the podcast where we explore our inner space on purpose. I'm your host, Howard Cosmo Palmer. I am an inner space archaeologist, and today's guest I would say is the same, but I definitely would love for Laura Dunworth to spend some time talking to you. A brief introduction is over 30 years now. Laura has spent what I would say a path on exploring her inner space and becoming self-confident around meditation, yoga, spiritual work, and breath work. She is an educator by trade or by start, and had some, I would say, inviting moments to go inwards in life that brought her along this path. The biggest thing I want to introduce Laura to my listeners and video followers about is her work around grief and her work around finding energy and healing. Maybe some of the practices that she adapts and finds that works for people. So, Laura, let me not take too much of the stage of introducing you, but please, listeners and followers and viewers, take some space with me here on One Dark Universe to listen to Laura Dunworth. Laura, please introduce yourself.
All right, Howard, thank you so much for having me. I really, really love that term, inner space archaeologist.
Thank you.
It is really such a beautiful journey, if we allow it to be. And I think we are all on a path of healing and awakening. We all
Hmm.
have catalyst moments in our lives. And I have to say, you mentioned yours started at a very young age. Mine started pretty young too, with the
Mm.
divorce of my parents,
Oh.
and just kind of navigating that world. Um, Followed by, in my 20s, the death of my younger brother. And
Mm.
because of that divorce situation with my parents, my brother and I we were kind of soulmates. We were kind of, we
Mm.
had each other growing up. And losing him was really a profound uh, catalyst for me, really. In the beginning, obviously I didn't realize it was a catalyst. It was grief,
It was
right? And
pain, right?
it was
Yeah.
pain. And
Hmm.
it was a doorway, an opening to, how do I heal myself? How do I heal my body? How do I heal my heart? How do I heal my spirit? And I have to say that I received some beautiful divine guidance along the way. I'd never really been a spiritual seeker that I
Mm.
was conscious of. I think we're all unconsciously spiritual seekers. But a woman found me, and I wasn't looking for her. And she was a
Mm.
psychic medium, and she was a friend of my father's. And I knew her, just from kind of the friendship, but I didn't know what she could do. And she didn't do that as a living. She wasn't a medium as a she didn't do that as a living.
Mm.
And she approached me with a very specific message from my brother that really was mind blowing. And I don't often
Wow.
share this, and here I go. I'm sharing it because I think somebody out there probably really would love to hear this.
Well, I'm glad
But
this is a safe space for you to do that. Thank you.
absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. My mother and I were cleaning out my brother's apartment after he died, and
Mm.
we were, of course, very sad. And it was, we were crying quite a bit. And we came across this pair of tennis shoes that were just really stinky. I mean, they
Mm.
smelled awful, and to the point where we had to just take them and put them outside. And it created this laughter and really broke the tension of the grief.
Mm.
And it was only my mother and I. We didn't tell anyone about it. It was just, it's just something that had happened. And this
Mm.
woman approached me and said, I'm supposed to give you a message from your brother. He just wants you to know that when you were laughing about the smelly tennis shoes, he was laughing with you. And
Interesting.
wow, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I began my diving in of everything I could find about life after life and consciousness and
Yeah.
spirituality.
Wow.
And along with all of these tools that helped
Mm.
me connect with myself, like yoga and breath work, meditation, energy healing, has been a really big one for me, healing myself and then bringing that gift to others. So, it's, I'm grateful. I'm grateful because I also
Yeah.
do believe as well that our souls have We have a mission, we have a purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that a lot of these things we plan before
Mm-hmm.
we incarnate, and being able to look at life through a different lens,
Mm-hmm.
a lens of empowerment and not a lens of victimization, a lens of,
Right.
maybe we choose some of these things to awaken us,
Yeah.
is really kind of mind blowing and very powerful.
Yeah. I would not agree with any of your words. I think that's the power of words, right? They give articulation to sound, right? Like the sounds
Mm-hmm.
we're making, the vibrations that we're living through. Just wanted to take a second to kind of let all that you said have its space. Um, we all have our journey, as you mentioned. Sometimes it's not as obvious how powerful they are or the meanings behind them, as you said. You know,
Yes.
shout out to all the spirits, your brother, all our family members that are out there with us, even in our most vulnerable moments, you know, our most resisting moments. And I would definitely agree that how I see it too is that this reality is all about resistance down to the anatomic level. You know, like we are conceptually here for that resistance and that journey, and due to that, we are already whole. We are already whole and sound and beautiful and from source, if not multiple perspectives of that same oneness. But
Yes.
again, it's still here we are. You know, you still have to shower, you still have to eat, you still have to drive in traffic, you still have to grow your children, you still have to grow yourself, you know. You still have to accept that once you get old enough, we're all children. There's no adults. You know, like all those things that are maybe not said or not offered in some kind of passageway or, you know, some obvious way, but then become true in a traumatic way. So my question for you, or one of my first questions is how do you see trauma as a lesson? You know, like that's a like I won't say like trauma is the high perspective, and then we could go with how do you see finding discipline every day in something that is rewarding, um, useful, you know, because trauma is like, oh, you got to get out of it. But then what about just like drinking water every day or going for a walk every day? Those aren't traumatic. But if you don't do it, your body, mind, and things, those things will build up. And then here you are taking pills or possibly having health issues when it could have just started simpler. So starting with grief and trauma, how do you find, how do you want to educate people on how to find space with that? You know, if there's a surface layer or, you know, an educated way to say that.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, we're kind of starting with the top, aren't we?
I mean, here we are. It's the end of
Here
the
we
year,
are.
you know,
Well,
it's,
it's
yeah.
true. It's true. And I think it's important to not gloss over the trauma.
Hmm.
Everything that I just said has taken me over 25 years to
Yeah.
get to a place of I can look at it through a different lens now. Um, because if we just jump to, oh, it's a spiritual lesson and, we're supposed to learn this, and, you bypass all of the human emotions, and we can't do that. That's a term that I've heard it called spiritual bypassing, and it makes a lot of sense to me. It's like, okay, we can't just jump right to that divine understanding of, oh, this was meant to happen. This is part of the plan. We have to honor the grief,
Hmm.
and then we have to find ways to support ourselves through it. And like you said, sometimes it can just be as simple as stepping outside
Yeah.
into the sunshine and the fresh air and drinking a glass of water, putting your feet on the ground, something that feels supportive,
Hmm.
and letting yourself be in the grief, trying to come to the place of an observer, trying
Yeah.
to, okay, you know what, I'm in this right now. Wow, I feel it in my heart. I feel it
Hmm.
physically in my body. Or for me, it was my digestion. I couldn't digest it. So I had a lot of digestive
Mm.
issues. So looking at your
Look at
body
that.
as to, okay, how am I processing this? And, emotions like grief, emotions, any emotions, they're energy, right? They're energy in motion, emotion.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah. I love that one.
I know, right? Using some of these practices to help to help them not build up in our body, in our tissues. And maybe it's getting a
Mm.
massage, or maybe it's exercising, maybe it's yoga. I teach tapping, which is an energetic acupuncture
Yeah,
technique,
yeah, yeah,
because we're clearing energy through the body's
yeah,
meridians, right? And
yeah,
it really, really, really helps.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's time and space, but, and I don't want to say there's work attached to it, but in a sense, you can't just sit in it. You
Right.
have to do some things to help your body, your mind, your heart, to move that energy through.
Yeah. Yeah, again, thank you for sharing. It's definitely speaks to the work you've done. I mean, it's easier said than done, but you've validated and even highlighted some points that you can't gloss over it. The spiritual bypassing is a term, it is a thing. It's like we're so conditioned to the dopamine effect that it's like we'll even sacrifice the actual path, the hard work, just to feel good about it or look good about it. And again, we're all victims, if that's a good word, or conditioners or experiencers or people who chose these things. These apps are for free, these environments are for free. Yeah, you download them, and then you pay for them in relations to your service fee. So
Hmm.
again, taking that 10,000-foot view or that spiritual view into your life and kind of understanding, okay, here I am on purpose. Here I am as a healer for myself and somewhat of energetic balance to what is experienced, the yin and yang of us, the contrasting and the loving. I don't want to say negative, not that it doesn't exist, but it's only the opposite. That's how I want to choose to always see it. If there's more to it, just like there's levels to everything and even to ourselves, I'll get there. I'll get there in time. I'll get there in peace. I'll get there. But right now, accepting this acceptance, allowing the acceptance, right? It's such a powerful space. And again, connecting with people like yourselves in the way that we have and in hearing about your message, to me, it's only obvious that we stay this way. And you mentioned how the grief can be hard. So, what are some softer ways that you can possibly, you're not grieving that day or you're feeling okay, or it's the holidays, something that kind of gives you an energy of, like to be positive on purpose? How would you say there are a couple ways people can practice into that? Whether it's calling a loved one or, like you said, going outside. I like to hug trees.
Mm.
But again, I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Well, the holidays, that is really a tough one. The holidays
Mm,
can bring up a lot of grief and pain and emotion for folks. And I actually took a yoga class of a friend today, and she said, can I feel grief and still feel grateful?
yeah.
And it's like you said, it's the duality of life. It's the yin and the yang. It's the balance, of the
Mm,
energy. And so, you know, a lot of times when people are feeling grief during the holidays, you know, think about, maybe you need to take a step back from the parties or the music or the lights. Maybe
mm,
you do a soft meditation. Maybe you allow yourself a little more rest. One of the things that is kind of in contrast right now is we have the busyness of the holidays,
yeah.
but the season
Yeah.
of winter is all about rest. And the animals in the trees are hibernating. The days
Yeah.
are shorter, the nights are longer. Our bodies naturally want a little more space and rest. So I think it's tuning in to your
Hmm.
intuition to figure out what it is you need. You know is being around people a healing, cheerful thing, or is it taking a step back that feels more nurturing? So
Hmm.
part of my journey has been taking time to find the stillness, to listen to my inner voice,
Hmm.
the quiet, like you said, the hugging of the tree. The trees have tremendous healing energy.
Hmm.
The trees and the plants are here, and the sun, I mean, they're here to support us. And there's so much we can learn. I think Eckhart Tolle said, go out and look at a tree, let a tree teach you stillness. And I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
wow, that is really
Yeah.
beautiful. So finding the stillness to tune into your intuition, to figure out what it is that your body needs, that your heart needs. And,
Yeah.
for me too, I just want to mention that you may not always feel like sitting down and grabbing a journal and
Mhm.
having a gratitude practice or writing your feelings even, but having a gratitude practice even in the midst of trying times. If you're having financial difficulty or relationship difficulty or whatever it is, can you be grateful for a good cup of coffee? Can you be
Yeah.
grateful for the sun outside and the birds singing? And really training your mind and your heart to find a space of coherence through
Hmm.
gratitude.
Yeah, your words are powerful. They're spells, right? And we've all heard that.
It's true.
And they pretty much form everything in your reality. So inside and out, we've definitely took what I would say is a journey. If you're listening, I'm sure a lot of the conversations and what we're saying resonated with you, but you also have your own journey. And I definitely want to say these are answers when you see them as answers to your questions, right? When
Yes.
you understand the question, these are the answers. Laura and I are sitting here as spiritual workers. I'm an inner space archaeologist. She's everything. She's an educator, and in a lot of ways, being certified is a way for both of us to say to ourselves, we honor the person we're becoming. We're investing in that person on purpose. While we might have experienced grief that brought us on that journey, or maybe even something that solidified that, okay, I need to turn around or I need to take a different direction. Laura's example was powerful when she was saying that in relation to a woman coming up to her and just randomly giving her a conversation that only her and her mother's aware of. To me, if that ever happened, I would be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to fly tomorrow. But then again, due to my own practice of like gratitude and self reflection, appreciation for my own journey, I said, well, when the things happen to me that it happened to me, those are pretty powerful messages too, Howard. Like, why is it that that comparison is needed? And you mentioned Eckhart Tolle, and I want to even say that I remember Deepak Chopra. He has an acronym ego, and it stands for edging God out. And
Mm.
when you bring the right, when you bring the ego
It's a
in,
big one.
yeah, whew, I'm trying to say it with the most subtle shout out, man. I'm sure that was a deep space for him, but it resonated immediately because again, those words, like you're not always having ways to say them, but the vibration is there. And here we are. So you gave major examples around the grief, just acknowledging it, not bypassing it. And then you gave some softer examples, just, appreciation, going outside in nature. And one thing I heard you say, but didn't say directly, is learning how to say no, like
Mm.
especially around the holidays again, or people might have those moments in their life that happened around these seasons. So how do you ignore that? Um, Gently, one day at a time, one breath at a time, one tree at a time. Again, you you have to find your practice on purpose. So here we are speaking intentionally, and I want the listeners and the viewers to don't feel different from us, but definitely know that your path is your own. Like it's they'll say in business, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. There's resources everywhere. Same thing here. You are on this spiritual growth for yourself, but not by yourself. Your ancestors are here, the spirits are here. I don't know if there's any more books that are needed to be made in the world, but there are enough books in this world for you to go read. And then there's the advancement of technology giving us more resources than we can need. But again, if there's anything you could take away without, let's say, making it too, we can use the word political, but like, how do you see us today as a society? What are you some of your gripes, if you may, or just some of your intentions along with your journey and the work? Because again, I have a term, just because you're strong doesn't mean you lift heavy things. And then it turns into just because you're strong doesn't mean you lift everything. So
Mm.
here we are, we're certified, we have years, we have clients, we have we have a show, we got these accolades, but we're still aging. We're still showing up, we're still finding ways. How do you make it through the day?
Oh my gosh, good question. Well, awareness is key. Slowing
Mm,
down is key. Noticing how different things make me feel.
mm.
Um, the news. No, that's a big no. Doom
Mm.
scrolling. No.
Okay, okay.
I notice how it makes my body feel. So one of the things that an energy teacher taught me
Mm.
was when you are pondering a decision or just even noticing what you're being exposed to, say it's the news, say it's a violent movie, say it's media, social media, whatever it is, does your body constrict or does your body
Ah,
expand?
right.
And so I found, I'm developing a following on social media because I'm trying to get my content out there. I'm trying to reach parents and children. My educator background, I've written a couple of breathwork books for teachers and for parents to use with students and children. So I do need to have some type of a presence, but I curate it. I curate
Mm-hmm.
it. I follow folks that inspire me. I follow things that I want to learn, that I'm choosing to consume. So
Mm-hmm.
choosing as a consumer, because our nervous systems were never meant to handle the bombardment that we get.
Not at this rate. No, no.
Right.
If I may, for the listeners and viewers, like Laura just said something really powerful. And if you've been listening and following my show, here's an example of how I can bring that home for you. As a technologist, there was a very big gap between how we went from hunter gatherer to what was considered farmland or farm living. Very, very, very large gap. There's a large gap between horses and when we went to the car. Not as a large gap, but definitely a gap.
Mm-hmm.
When the computer was invented and given to the public, that gap between then and today with the phones, this is the bombardment she's referring to that we're living through and in. We are inundated is the word or over, like we have
Yes,
way, it's going down the cereal aisle times 1,000, and that could
exactly.
cripple you in a moment. So I just want to bring that home or bring that into resonance as well, for my listeners. It happens and it's here. So thank you so much. Please continue.
Sure, sure, exactly.
Hmm.
Well, I'll go ahead and just, keep on diving down this self-care route because
Yeah.
like you said, the technology, with everything being energy, we're
Hmm.
getting the Wi-Fi and we're getting, the cell towers and, you know, hence I'm using wired headphones. I'm aware of that.
Same, same,
I'm
right.
choosing to not use Bluetooth or a smartwatch. I'm choosing to use my cell phone on speaker mode and not have it right by my bed at
Keep close
night.
to the copper is what I say.
Exactly. I've got copper. I've got copper
It's in the
tensor
cabling.
rings.
Yeah, it's in
I've
the
got,
cabling.
yes,
Yeah.
I've got grounding
Tesla was not
sheets.
wrong. He was not
Oh,
wrong. It's
it's
just
amazing.
misunderstood. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah.
fascinating to learn about. And once you start down this road of, okay, I'm going to drink pure water. I'm going to try to eat clean food. I'm going to get
Hmm.
grounded, whether it's, bare feet on the earth or grounding sheets and products and things like that.
Hmm.
All of these things support your nervous system.
On
And then
purpose.
on purpose,
Hmm.
exactly. And
Hmm.
then you start looking, and it's overwhelming. I know you got to do one thing at a time, but you start looking at your lotions and your shampoos and your
Yeah.
sunscreens, and you start buying cleaner products. And all of these things are going to support your body,
Yeah.
and which in turn supports your mind, your spirit. So being aware of what's in our world and being aware of what we're consuming with our eyes and our ears and our minds. And like you
Yeah.
said, politically there's a lot of division out there. There's a lot of
Hmm.
separation, there's a lot of fear, and you can choose to be in it, and maybe that's part of, some souls, that's part of their learning.
Hmm.
But you kind of get to a point where you step outside the matrix and you
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
to say, okay, I can be in this world but not necessarily of this
Of
world.
this world. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. You step outside of yourself, and you mentioned that inner world, or in the world, and then I heard inner world because it's just what I wanted to hear, and and it's so true. It's so true. Again, um, a lot of us are unplugging on purpose in major ways.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to bring light to why I got my certification in mental health and being a mental health aid provider and support, and understanding around the signs and the symptoms, is because that unplugging is also, some people are unaliving themselves, or bringing themselves out of this experience. And again, taking a 10,000-foot view, and I like to use that term in a sense of just a step back, a calmer view, a humbler approach, that maybe that was a part of their journey, or that is a part of their journey. So learning to be with it, but not necessarily letting it go because of the emotion, the energy in motion, how it's happening right now in your space. We are all doing this on purpose, not because not because we have to, but because there's a balance to it. I'll say, as a man and as a Black man, in my experience, we don't know how to talk to ourselves, much less to others, about our pain. I'm not saying
Mm.
other cultures don't experience it, but it's definitely a dominant conversation in our path. And why I choose to speak with people like Laura, and all my viewers and listeners, why I love you so much in relation to you here in my message, is because I'm not trying to stand on one side more than I'm trying to explain my experience on purpose. She mentioned these things because, yes, it is one more thing, but it's teaching you how to let go of the things that you may have patternized into, or conditioned into, or matrixed into, and not be aware of it. So whether it was alcohol abuse, or digital abuse, or verbal abuse, or how you treat yourself, or how you show up, your hygienes, these things are more than just popular, more than just the in crowd thing. And again, we somehow believe we have to have friends or be a part of society. And I don't disagree with that. I like nice things too. But it comes with everything Laura is saying, is that it's a choice. It's a real choice. And when you give yourself the ability to learn how to choose, whether you slow down on purpose, you develop breath, mind, meditation, hypnosis, whatever it is, you have the power to create. That's your power here, your power to choose. You're the most powerful being in this existence as we see it. Maybe next to the dolphins, they're pretty up there. But I would say this was a great conversation, and my only gripe as to why I try to choose this path on purpose and keep connecting with people, because I could sit in my box, I could feel good about myself. I try to not coin the term, but follow the term, a uh, extroverted introvert. Like I talk to people, but and I even have one. I love people, but I hate humans. And then I switched it. I hate humans, but I love people. And or I hate people, but I love humans. My point, it was just that I needed to find my path. I needed to balance on purpose. And so thank you so much again, because we might come from different paths. I might not know you from Adam, but we are the same atom, right?
Ooh,
Yeah.
yes. Ooh, that's a good one.
You mentioned having, no, you didn't mention, I read that you have two children, two
Yes.
boys.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for 2 seconds, because I'm a father of a daughter, but you're a mother of two sons.
Yes.
Are they into this at all, or is just they're like, that's what mommy does,
Okay, well, they're 26 and 23 years old,
Okay,
and
grown men.
they listen, but they
Mm-hmm.
they roll their eyes a little. But every once in a
Mm.
while, they'll ask me about something. My oldest son is a Navy pilot, and
Oh
he
wow.
flies helicopters that have a lot of the radar and sonar. And he actually called me and he said, "Mom, I need you to do some of your voodoo research and find me some Faraday underwear." Because he's sitting on a big, sonar radar thing that emits
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
energy.
yeah. I get it.
And I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I
You
got you,
need this
bud. I know
RF.
exactly
Yeah, yeah.
what you need.
I have a hat. I have
Yes, yes,
a
I have
EMF
it when
hat.
I
Like I'm.
fly
Yeah.
and all of that.
Mm-hmm,
So
mm-hmm.
anyway, so yeah, they're listening, they're finding their way, of course. But as a
Yeah,
parent, you lead by example, you plant
yeah.
seeds, and you're and every once in a while they'll ask you a question, and they've been listening.
Yeah, yeah. And then you said, "This is the moment I've been waiting for," and
Yes,
then
it's
you
like
put on your cape, or you put whatever you do, but you stand up for your children and your
right,
family.
right.
Yeah, I'd say that's a similar path with my daughter. When she was younger, We definitely would yoga together or meditate together, or even I do something called parkour, so we jump around together.
Oh, love
But
that.
as she got older, I tried my best to just give her that journey. Along a lot of things happened, as parenting would do and would be, but I really value, just like you said, us having that space, and I'll say it like this, to let them grow.
Yes.
Sometimes I've met at least one or two people where their children are kind of like ours, but then they're nothing like them. They're the total opposite. They're almost like darker on purpose,
Mm.
and in that way, I found that interesting because it wasn't an opinion I had about it. It was just, again with the energy. And if I look at myself and I look at my parents and we keep going back, we could see those same examples. So again, it's that taking a 10,000-foot view back. It's that slowing down on purpose thing. And I think this is why the work works and why we show up like we do as humans, because that's what I love. I don't like people. Yeah. Love humans, hate people.
I like to say that we are all divine beings having a human experience.
There you go. Yeah, yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's definitely a t-shirt matter. A t-shirt quote. Anything else you'd like to share with us today, Laura?
Oh goodness! I mean, this has just been really, really wonderful. I think that you had said something a few minutes back about being a creator, and
Yeah.
I've really tried to embody that. I've never felt particularly artistic, even though that my mother's very artistic. She paints and draws and creates.
See, that total opposite.
But we literally are all creators. We're creators of our
Hmm.
lives. We were creators of our reality, and we're meant to create. And so finding what it is that lights you up, the work that you do, the work that I do. And it doesn't have to be putting yourself out there. It can be growing a garden. It can be volunteer work. It can be whatever it is. It's putting yourself out there to create something or to connect with others, and to share your gifts. We're all meant to share our gifts.
There's a Buddhist saying, and I'm going to tell you, I learned it by watching an anime that was not directly related to any kind of spiritual work, but it was. But Japanimation and animation, they have a great capability of putting in what is known as like sacred knowledge and the knowledge of the truth right there in front of you, but in a cartoon way and in a fun way. In any case, I hope it's true. I'd have to do my research, so I'll speak with that first. But the point was that Buddha, the animated character in this, was like he was one of the gods that were fighting against the human. It was like this battle of gods versus humans. And Buddha decided that he wanted to fight on the human side because the story is that he was a human turned god, right? In this
Oh.
analogy. And the point that I'm getting at, to relation to your point, is that when you decide, as to how they're saying, Buddha is saying, when you decide for yourself on purpose, the truth is everything.
Mm.
You don't need to, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing to get. There's no one to be. You're already whole in one. It's learning to
Yes.
let go of those things.
Yes.
And of course, the gods hate him for that because the gods take away your pain and, you praise them. And he's like, no, 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 you don't need to do that. And to me, again, at the 45-year-old man watching cartoons in the middle of the night, I'm getting these messages and I'm like, man, I'm just tuned in. I'm just tuned in. It's
Hmm.
just that. And it took the work. And I'm wondering how many people, possibly children who are watching, but I'm sure there's some grown adults in there, were watching this and we're like, man, I remember when I was a kid, they were talking and look at this. So again, I say that to say thank you for being you too. And thanks everyone for just showing up every day for themselves. Laura Dunworth is out there. You could just Google her. I will have her content and information and links in the show notes. But the biggest thing, again, please stay consistent. Consistent, everything. Consistency over intensity, showing up for yourself. Today, when you're hearing this, go hug a tree.
Mm.
Go hug a tree. And if you're confident enough, put it on social media and tag One Dark Universe. I'll tag Laura as well, and we will clap for you for hugging trees. One other thing, drink water.
Mm.
Yeah, okay.
Love it.
Okay. Laura Dunworth, thank you so much for everything you've done for yourself and for taking the space with us here on One Dark Universe. The goal is to continue proving to people that we are here. So if there is anything you want to do in relation to just share your work, please feel free to tag me. I hear you saying that you want to show up more in social spaces. So there's invite collaboration buttons and things. I'm pretty consistent online on purpose because, like you said, I don't know how to make people like me, but I know that it works because I like it. So if I keep
Exactly.
making it, yeah. It's like I chose something that was punishing, but I loved it and I did it. That's another Buddhist thing.
Mm,
You like choose your pain on purpose and love that. Choose what gives you value in life and then let that be your struggle. And
mm.
this it's a struggle to show up on social media for me, but I do it. I do it. I do it.
Yes, I think so too. That's how we reach people.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much, Laura
Oh,
Dunworth.
thank you so much,
You
Howard.
have
It
a
was it
great
was my pleasure. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you.